Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Forth with Study Aces program, and I've put together a presentation to help you get ready for your midterms. Of course, not every class has midterms, but very often you have a series of projects and quizzes that maybe due at this time. And so I have some information to share with you to help you make that process a bit easier. Not every class has midterms. In fact, my medical terminology class, we just have a bunch of little tests throughout the whole term and then a final. But when I talk about preparing for midterms, it's pretty much any tests that are before the final exam. And the reason I say that is because usually for midterms or whatever kind of test you are talking about that is not the final, you actually have some time to set up a strategic plan. So you can kind of put all of your tests or projects on your calendar and arrange a time to prepare for each of those. Make sure you're using your calendar, a reminder app, or to-do lists, whatever works best. I find if I have a lot of materials to prepare, things to do, I put them into my calendar with alerts. So each day I have specific items on my calendar with alerts. Well, if you know that you have exams or projects and their due date, you can kind of figure out what steps need to be done each day. And I know a lot of students are resistant to writing things down, but I always say save valuable brain space by writing things down and not trying to remember them. Particularly when you're a bit sleep deprived, this becomes challenging. And we have so many great apps and software programs that can help us with that. So there's really no need to try and keep all of that in your head. A lot of academic support programs will run intensive midterm review sessions. So if you haven't checked it out as yet, definitely go to your school's website, find the academic support offerings, and if there are ones for your particular subject, see if they're holding a midterm review session, even if you haven't gone to any of the other sessions, that might be useful. Or you might even be able to book an appointment with a tutor just to get ready for midterms. You can create a study guide for yourself if one was not provided by the faculty. In my AI video, I talk about using AI to generate a study guide for yourself. Make sure that you focus on the points that were emphasized by the faculty, and so you can put together a guide to help you prepare for the test. Divide and conquer. So, what I mean by that is if you have some classmates that you're working with or a study group, and I do suggest that your study groups are small, otherwise, it just turns into a big chatting and gossip session. So, you have your small study group or select classmates that you work with. Divide up the material so each person is responsible for the notes, sample questions, and finding good resources for their particular topics. And so when you get done with your meeting, you're going to have a set of notes and questions and resources on all of those different topics, and each person brings their own perspective, and that really helps. Once you've made your outline or your study guide, you can actually go into the faculty's office hour. The nice thing about going before the midterms is usually there's not a lot of students trying to come in to the office hour beforehand. After test, you can pretty much count on office hours being very, very busy. But once you've prepared your material, you can go have a meeting with the faculty and just confirm that you're focusing on the right things. So it would be great if you had some time to do that. Everybody likes to use note cards. In fact, that is the classic example of study tools that so many students use, but you want to make sure you're using them correctly. Do not take all of your notes and transfer them onto flashcards, either real paper or digital. Flashcards or note cards are good for small pieces of information, like terms and definitions, for example, or perhaps individual chemical reactions or particular types of equations, small pieces of information. When you have these note cards, you can quiz yourself or review anytime you have a few free moments. So if you get to class a few minutes early, pull out your note cards. Again, paper or digital. There's a lot of websites where you can create your own digital flashcards because a lot of people don't like to have paper. Um, but whatever you choose, whenever you have a few free moments, you can use that to flip through your note cards and quiz yourself. It's very important, particularly when you're stressed out, to have time to relax and take care of yourself. I talked about this in one of my other videos. They actually did a study where they tracked immune function during periods of stress, and we found, unsurprisingly, that particular immune compounds actually have measurable in blood decreases during the time before and after high stress academic periods. I mentioned avoiding screens for an hour before bed. This is because all screens, whether it's computer or your phone or tablet or even TV, they generate blue light. Now you can get blue light filters that can help you, but this blue light actually is very stimulating to the nervous system. So if you're doing a lot of intensive screen use before you go to sleep, it's going to make it difficult for you to sleep. What you might want to do is transition to looking at printouts or written notes in the period right before you go to sleep. Make sure that you're properly hydrated. There can be a tendency to rely on all kinds of energy drinks and coffee, and who does not love caffeine and so forth, but you want to make sure that you stay adequately hydrated. It's very difficult to sleep. You might even notice that you have dry mouth and even your nose gets dry and difficulty breathing if you get dehydrated, particularly in the winter when the heating system is running a lot. Meditation is a good tool for focus and relaxation. I'm going to be posting some example meditations for each of those options for focus and relaxation. So keep an eye on the channel for those videos to pop up. For electronic testing procedures, most schools are doing electronic testing rather than actual in the classroom paper and pencil. If your school is doing electronic testing, chances are they have tools like Lockdown Browser with Proctorio or Respondus Monitor. Now, the Lockdown Browser is designed to prevent you from being able to go to other websites while you're using it. That's the lockdown aspect. But you're going to have to make sure that you've installed the particular version that goes with your school. So if you are taking classes at multiple schools and they each require a lockdown browser, you're probably going to have multiple devices, like maybe your computer and tablet, because each school is going to require the specific version installed. Because the way the software works, it will only go to your learning management system for that school. That's how the lockdown aspect works. And of course, Proctorio or Respondus Monitor is software that can check to make sure that your face is visible in the screen. It looks to see if other people are visible in the screen, and it flags it. So this is like a proctoring system. Once you get these things installed on your computer or tablet, it's a good idea to do a test run. In my classes, I actually post a little fake practice quiz so the students can test their system. Some schools actually have on the help desk area or even on the learning management system opening page, a little test page that will let you check out and make sure that your system is installed correctly. But the main thing is to make sure that you're using the version of the lockdown browser that goes with your particular school. Make sure you disable any notifications or updates, log out of all of the apps except for the testing. You definitely don't want something popping up when you're in the middle of the test. Make sure your computer or device is plugged in or fully charged, and make sure you have adequate lighting for the webcam. When you use Proctorio or Respondus monitoring, it's actually activating your webcam to make a recording of you. And if you don't have adequate lighting, it might flag it as inappropriate test-taking behavior, or your faculty might watch the video. Yes, it does record the video, and question whether or not you were using materials that you shouldn't be. Make sure you minimize distractions. Try and find a quiet place to do your testing. Clear your environment, removing books and papers. Most of those proctoring software, they'll do an environment scan where you have to show that your desk is clear and you don't have any of your books or papers visible. Always test earlier than the deadline. The reason for this is because if everybody's testing right on the last day that the exam is open, sometimes there's server crashes, or it can lag and get stuck and create all kinds of problems. I know for one of my classes, uh, the the department policy does not allow for retakes on tests for technical issues. You're only allowed to make up one exam. Well, if you waste that makeup by having to redo a test that got stuck, right at the deadline, then you won't have that extension available if you do have an actual emergency. It's always a good idea to contact help desk for any kind of technical issues. I know for the classes I teach, I can adjust due dates and so forth, but any kind of technical problems, like, hey, I got kicked out of my test in the middle of it, I can't fix those. That's a help desk thing. So make sure that you check that out for your class. More than likely, technical issues are going to require a help desk ticket. And again, you would want to test before the deadline because in case you do have technical problems, you want to have time to get it resolved before the deadline for the test. In case of internet or power outage, well, this depends on whether you're using Blackboard or Canvas or another system. I know for Blackboard, if you are interrupted during the test, whether internet or power outage, it will kick you out entirely and submit that assignment at whatever stage of completion it's in. Canvas, it will kick you out, but then you can come back in and pick up where you left off. So make sure you know what is the case at your school for your class. Make sure you pay attention to what the faculty policy is. Apps are not always the best. I know there's Blackboard app and there's definitely a Canvas app. I always tell my students do not use the app, which is kind of counterintuitive because usually you think, oh, the app is better because it's designed to be used on my device and it's better specifically for that. What I found is the apps sometimes have issues. Canvas app in particular. Don't use the Canvas app. Most learning management softwares prefer the Chrome browser. So if you can possibly use a computer or laptop, that's best. If you have to use your phone or tablet, use your Chrome browser. Don't use the app because they have all kinds of glitches. Okay? Remember, finals are going to be just around the corner. In most schools, it's only a month or two from midterms to final. Yeah, it's actually less than 2 months. So maybe a month to a month and a half. So definitely celebrate your midterms and project completions, but not too extended a celebration because you want to keep your eye on the ball. Remember, finals are coming soon, so you want to make sure you're ready. Good luck to everybody.